think I'm going to get us started because we always have a full agenda. So first, I just want to welcome everybody to the first full partnership meeting of 2025 for the NJCRC. We're really super appreciative that you're all here. And we're really excited to talk to you about all the great things that the CRC has been doing and that we have planned for not only just this year, but already planning for 2026, which is just testament to how much we're growing. I am going to start recording this meeting right now. That is my reminder.
Laura, I think we already are recording.
Oh, good. We already started. Perfect. I'm like, why can't I find it? Awesome. And yes, as I already said, as new people are popping on, if you could put your name and affiliation in the chat, and I'll pass it over to Tom to remind y'all about the NJCRC.
Yeah. Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending the full partnership meeting. Yeah, just a reminder, the New Jersey Coastal Resilience Collaborative was established as a professional network for fostering sustainable and resilient coastal communities and ecosystem by generating informed action. And so you can see our goals overlap between informing decision makers, creating a thriving community of practice around resilience, and then making sure that our communities are economically and climate resilient in the future. And the methods that we all try to use is advancing science to inform policy and decision making. So we're all happy to have you here and help us push our communities, our state forward to become a more resilient place. I think, Amanda, you're going to pick up for the agenda.
Yes, like Laura had mentioned, we do have a full packed agenda today. So this is what we're looking at. Our meeting objectives are learn about the NJCRC members and new roles and the new partners who have joined us since our last full partnership meeting last June. Consider board nomination process and timing. Receive updates on the partnership on collaborative activities, next steps, and opportunities for partner engagement. You'll hear from guest speakers today from the Army Corps of Engineers, New Jersey Department of Transportation, and the New Jersey Office of Planning Advocacy. And you'll also hear updates from New Jersey DEP and NJCRC work groups and partners. So that's what we have for you all today. Tom just linked the agenda in the chat as a PDF if you want to take a look, and I'll pass it off to Liz Semple.
Hi, everyone. I'm so glad you're all here today. You know, as was reiterated, this is a group of professionals collaborating. So it's important that you're here. And, you know, it is what makes this collaborative a collaborative, is that we show up and that we get informed and that we work together. The meeting objectives were outlined on the agenda that was sent, and you know, as Amanda just went through, there's a lot that we're going to go through today, so super excited about hearing from everyone about what are the key things happening in this subject area right now. My job at the moment is to turn it over as a co-chair to Ed, who is going to introduce our newest co-chair. So take it away, Ed. Does anybody see if Ed's online?
Yeah, I was just looking. I don't actually see him online. So do you want to go ahead and?
Yeah, sure. We are so excited, Martha Maxwell Doyle and I, and the entire collaborative, that we're have a new co-chair, Lisa Almuller, who many of us have worked with for years when she was at JC Neer. She is now at Rutgers in a different role as the Metropolitan Coastal Transformative Hub Executive Director at Rutgers, and you know, she brings to this co-chairmanship many years in facilitating groups like this, and also lots of coastal experience in community resilience and networking on that subject area. So Lisa, I didn't have time to prepare for that because I thought Ed was going to do it. How did I do? Do you want to say a word or two?
Thanks, Liz. You did great. I'm excited to join you and Martha and the rest of the group assembled here in this role. So thank you very much. And we have lots to cover, so I will pass it on. Thank you.
Yeah, sounds good. We also have a new managing director, which we also are super excited for. Amanda Archer, who we just heard from a few minutes ago, is a managing director with Tom and Laura. Tom and Laura, really have been leading this organization for a while now and having some new backbone staff to help us keep moving forward is crucial, and Amanda has been filling those shoes in a terrific way. So welcome, Amanda. The funding for the managing directors for this current year, and we have been kind of patching it together year to year, is funding from the New Jersey Coastal Consortium for Resilient Communities. And that's from funding that's coming from Monmouth University at the current time. Amanda is replacing Managing Director Jung Chen from NJIT, so we thank you very much for your assistance in the past, Jung. And now the next thing I need to do is introduce the new board member, Lindsay Nasia. I think I got that right. I actually on the process agenda have it spelled out for me, so which is great. She's a certified professional planner and a program manager for mainstreaming green infrastructure with New Jersey Future. So super excited to have Lindsay with us on the board of directors, and many of us have worked with her for years as well. So it's great to have her. And the next thing we need to do, and we are moving on with the agenda because there is a lot to cover, is Tom Harrington is going to talk about the board nomination process. So Tom, do you want to take it?
Sure. Yeah, thank you, Liz. Yeah. So hopefully many of you remember that we actually transitioned from structure of a leadership committee that was kind of overseeing the work of the collaborative to a board of directors that's kind of more inclusive of more partners to reflect how we've grown over the last couple of years. And when we did that, we created a process for people to come on and off the board. And so we do have a number of board seats that are up for re-election in this following year. Typically we keep the board of directors at about 11 to 22 members. Right now we have 22 members. There are 11 at-large seats that are elected to the board, and about a third of those seats are up for re-election every year. So the process to be nominated for a board seat is to reach out to the co-chairs. So the co-chairs submit a slate of electors that they have nominated for possible board seats. The co-chairs need to receive those nominations 30 days in advance of the next full partnership meeting, which will be in June of 2025. Any partner in good standing can nominate someone or themselves. The only thing you need is to submit in writing the nominee, and then have one letter of recommendation from another collaborative partner in good standing. And to do that, if anybody's interested in being elected to a board seat, submit those nominations to myself. I have my email on the slide there, and I'll put it in the chat. And Laura, Amanda, and I will make sure that the co-chairs receive those nominations as they fill out their slate. And then when we get to that June meeting, we will actually have an open election for any seats that have more than one nominee. So this is an opportunity to be engaged and involved. So if you're interested, please nominate yourself or somebody else for a seat. Thank you.
Next, we have Amanda, who's going to talk and introduce new partners.
Yeah, so since June, we have a lot of new partners that came on board to the New Jersey Coastal Resilience Collaborative. I invite these folks, if they're here today, to put their name and affiliation in the chat, just introducing themselves to say hi. We have Rebuild by Design, representatives Amy Chester, Hannah Katz, and Johanna Lawton. Collier's Engineering with Representatives Scott McFadden, Bob Mullen, Adam Warburton. New Jersey City University with Representative Allison Fitzgerald. iParametrics Rep Ariel Mallet and Jeff Stevens. Surf Rodder Representative is Matt Gove. The American Shore and Beach Preservation Association Representatives Nicole Elko, Brad, and Leslie Pickel. Black and Vetch, Representatives Allison Miskaman and Joe Stromwell. Rippled Waters Engineering, Mary Pass Goldman. Forerunner, Ashley Archibald, Megan Finlayson, Aisling Sullivan, and Owen McNeil. Center for Environmental Transformation, we have Representative John Compton. And the Great Egg Harbor Watershed Association, Representative Brooke Fisher and Fred Akers. They signed on as general partners in the last 6 months. And we'll hear from a few of them later today. We also have new resource affiliates from the NJIT Center for Community Systems, Representative Carrie Martin. And from Climate Central, we have Dan Rizza and Kelly Van Balen. So thank you for joining us, and feel free to say hi in the chat.
Thank you, Amanda. Next, we have Terry Doss, who is going to talk about the events calendar.
Hi, good afternoon. Sorry, just grabbing my notes. I'm excited to tell you about the upcoming events that we have. The first one is the Coastal Flood Workshop, which will be held Wednesday, March 19th at Stevens Institute of Technology. It's going to be a long day, but we have a lot of great speakers, some interesting talks, and a lot of food and drinks, and a networking event at the end of the day that you won't want to miss. And plus the views from Stevens during that networking event are amazing. So make sure you sign up. Registration will open up next week. We'll send out an email to let y'all know. At this point, we have 18 full 15-minute presentations and 14 7-minute lightning presentations and a plenary by Vince Mazai. We have 3 event sponsors that we're very grateful for. So in addition to Stevens, who is hosting us, we have Forerunner, HDR, and the Northeast Shore and Beach Preservation Association that are hosting the event. So thank you. And I'm glad to see a number of our hosts, our sponsors here on the call today, as well as a number of our presenters. So thank you all. We have our website up that has all the information that you need to learn more about the workshop, but we only have spots for 100 people. So if you're interested, I wouldn't hesitate. As soon as you get that email to register, please do so, because we anticipate that just like our 2024 workshop in May, or conference in May, we anticipate that we're gonna sell out pretty quick. Once we're all up and running for our coastal flooding technical workshop, we're gonna start preparations for our ecological restoration workshop, which will also be a technical workshop, and that will be occurring in early September. We should have a date any moment now. Amanda's working on that, and this will be held at the Rutgers Eco Complex in Bordentown. And so, like our coastal flooding workshop, it will be a limited space at about 100 to 120 registrants, but we'll be sending out a call for abstracts in the next few months, and once we have everything flowing for this first technical workshop, everything should flow very smoothly for the ecological restoration workshop. But again, it will be limited. So if you're interested, keep your ears open and watch the emails coming and jump in if you want to be involved. And feel
Joanna,
free to
for
reach
the
out to me.
MailChimp stats,
And sorry.
Jessica Johnson forwarded it to.
There we go. Thanks. And then in the next month, we're going to start preparations for our 2026 conference, which will be very much like the 2024 March conference. But this one will be larger. We'll have a lot more sponsors, and we already have our space picked out. That will be the Seaview in Galloway, New Jersey. We're really excited about it. If you've ever been to Seaview, they've changed everything. It's, as you can see on the lower right-hand corner, it's much lighter and brighter. And we're going to have a lot of different activities, including, if there was enough interest, some golfing, maybe some pickleball, but also a lot of really good discussions and a lot of great networking opportunities. So stay tuned for more information, but put the March 9th to March 11th, 2026 on your calendar. And if you want to be involved on the committee to prepare for that event, again, let me know. We have the same committee from our 2024 conference, but we'll need a lot more hands on deck. So feel free to reach out to me. So I tried to cover that all quickly. If you have any questions, as always, please do reach out to me, and we'll add you on to our list of volunteers. Thanks.
Laura, did
I'm
you
just
have
gonna-
more to add? And also the full partnership?
Yeah, I'm just going to add a little bit to the what Terry just said, because we also are also excited about already planning for 2026. So as everybody should know, it was a joint effort between the CRC and NJDAP, and it will be again. And we've already have some funding in place from them, which has allowed us to put the deposit down, which is super appreciated, and we're really excited for that piece. And we're also, I just also want to give a shout out to this New Jersey Sea Grant, who's going to be providing some of the financial stability for this, because as you all know, the CRC is not a nonprofit. We're just a group of people. So we need to always figure out how we're doing our financial pieces. And with that comes the need for sponsors for lots of events, if we want to keep things moving along as well, and to a higher quality. So I am going to point out that we do have exhibitor space scheduled for all the restoration workshop, the flooding workshop, and the conference. So if anybody's thinking sponsor, they'd like to be sponsor, keep that in the back of your mind. And then also, I'm just going to mention that our June full partnership meeting, right? So we have 2 full partnership meetings a year. Our second one is typically in June. We are targeting the beginning of June, but this time we're going to make sure we're trying to get us all back in person. So soon you will be getting information to save the date for that June full partnership meeting. We anticipate it being offered at Monmouth. It looks like that will be the place. Seems to be the most central for all of us. And we're hoping to have a networking event after as well. So hopefully you'll keep that in mind and be able to make it in person for a June full partnership meeting. And as I mentioned, if you'd like to sponsor something at that meeting, we would love to focus, highlight your organization or company. So with that, I'm going to move us along to the next slide.
So good afternoon, everyone. So just some quick updates that I just want to briefly talk about. Currently, because we've had so many new members and also some changes, the co-chairs along with the managing partners are working on putting together just a brief survey to focus on, what our strategic activity should be in the next 18 months or so. So that feeds into the work plans. Each of the committees has been asked to provide a work plan for the next year, similar to what we did last year, that then not only lives separately, but it also it gets incorporated to the overall work plan. In terms of areas of focus and things we should, continue to work on collectively together. Everyone's well aware that things could change in the next month or so. Or next year or so, we have no idea. But, the whole idea with strategic planning is to set out some goals and some may be stretch goals, but also to allow us to figure out collaboratively, are there ways that we can still continue to work together even if there are significant changes. And, you know, we can rest assured, at least for now, that the state of New Jersey continues to, you know, make coastal resiliency a priority for, you know, this state. So we're grateful for that. I think that's it. Oh, I forgot to mention one thing. The other thing is one of our work groups, which originally started out as the Ecological Research and Science Work Group, is looking to, there's a group that are looking to expand with the inclusion of the Beneficial Use Learning Network and also CHARM, that which it has also come under CRC. So we're in the process of kind of mapping out how these all work together, you know, and how we coordinate better together. And so that will be coming out probably, we'll have something for the full membership by the June meeting.
Thank you, Martha.
That's it.
Yeah. Thanks, Martha. So next, I don't see Nick Angarone on the call, but Becky, I thought I saw you, Becky Hill. Are you on the call? Are you standing in for Nick to do the DEP?
I'm here, Liz.
Oh, okay. Okay, great. Nick, do you want to give us an update from the DEP perspective?
Yeah. Thanks for the opportunity, and good afternoon, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Nick Angarone, New Jersey's Chief Resilience Officer, Coastal Manager. I'm going to provide you two relatively quick updates and then another in some detail. But I will absolutely, well, we're ahead of schedule, but either way, I will keep us on schedule here. All right. First, an update on DEP's Resilient Environment and Landscapes, the REAL rule proposal. As you all know, a pre-publication copy of the proposal was released back in May, following an extensive 4-year stakeholder engagement process, and was officially published on August 5th, which began the formal public comment period, which ended on November 7th. That 6-month review period resulted in upwards of 2,000 public comments. The department is still sifting through them, sorting them, and we will respond to all of them. As for schedule going forward, we expect to file the rule adoption with the New Jersey Office of Administrative Law in the summer, with adoption in the fall, meeting our statutory deadlines. In the meantime, DEP will be holding some roundtable discussions with elected officials to further explain the proposal and dispel a lot of the misinformation and disinformation that was the basis of many of the comments that we've received. Time and dates of those events are TBD, but when we have a better idea as to what that looks like, we will share them. Second, if you haven't seen it yet, my office released a climate resilience funding directory in this past November. The directory is an online, searchable, constantly updated database of resilience-related funding opportunities to assist local governments, state agencies, community-based organizations, really any organization, to find potential funding sources for their projects, including federal and state programs. The directory also showcases success stories of resilience projects, to help you all see kind of how others were successful and perhaps provide some ideas as to how you might also proceed. We're always looking for those success stories, and we want to make sure that we're capturing all applicable funding opportunities. So if you are looking for something specifically in there and you don't see it, please let us know. Tom, I see, has provided the direct link. It is not a particularly memorable link or easy to remember link. So perhaps the easiest way to find it is going to resilient.nj.gov, and you'll see a link directly there. Okay, now the longer update. about a year ago, I think, you had received, or we had presented a short briefing on the development of a proposal in response to NOAA's Climate Resilience Regional Challenge that was titled Building a Climate Ready NJ. Many of, if not all of you, are already aware, but I'm pleased to tell everyone again that that proposal was successful, and we were awarded over $72 million to implement that initiative. I'm going to spend a few minutes going through it as it has a significant impact on this group. First and foremost, the collaborative and many of its members are included in the award and were critical to its success. In fact, in conversations with NOAA, they let us know that the existence, the maturity, and the success of the network was a key reason that the proposal was selected. All right, first some basics. Excuse me. Building a climate ready NJ partners the New Jersey Coastal Management Program at DEP with 15 NGO and academic partners, most of whom are in the room today. It's a 5-year grant. It includes activities in 16 coastal counties. That includes 432 municipalities. 203 of those municipalities are identified as disadvantaged and overburdened communities and are prioritized throughout the initiative. The Building a Climate Ready NJ builds on much of the work that we have all undertaken together over the last decade and seeks to enhance and leverage that work to result in kind of more transformational resilience for New Jersey. All right, I'm going to touch on the many tasks and projects included in the project across a number of major areas. I don't have time to go through them all in detail, but I will identify for you the leads on them who you can absolutely ask questions to. All right, first, the overall intent here is to provide kind of a comprehensive initiative and process to move resilience from kind of education through planning and project design and ultimately implementation. And I'm going to touch on kind of all aspects of that process, right? So first, regional resilience planning, right? So building a climate ready NJ will leverage the existing efforts that we have underway to expand resilience planning opportunities in a greater number of communities. Those planning efforts help communities reduce their vulnerability to climate impacts and can be and are often leveraged to obtain federal funding for those projects that were identified in the plans. So some specifics. The DEP Bureau of Climate Resilience Planning will expand on our successful Resilient NJ program to fund direct climate resilience planning assistance in 3 to 4 more multi-municipal regions. I think folks are aware that we've been doing that work across the coastal zone. The Rutgers Climate Change Resource Center will work with the Meadowlands to develop a Meadowlands Regional Strategic Plan to inform municipal climate resilience planning in the area. Led by Sustainable Jersey, we will launch an Urban Chief Resilience Officer program that will train and staff Chief Resilience Officers in 6 of New Jersey's biggest cities. The Coastal Management Program, Rutgers and Sustainable Jersey will also update, enhance, and develop new additional tools and guidance that municipalities can use to conduct resilience planning activities on their own. And Princeton University will provide updated flood modeling and mapping that incorporates both coastal and fluvial flooding and their confluence to inform planning and decision making. All right, moving kind of through that process, if you will, we'll go into kind of a resilience projects design pipeline, right? And so in this case, the many project partners will collaborate to provide capacity, expertise, and resources along with and to disadvantaged and overburdened communities to move conceptual or planned natural and nature-based resilience projects into the design phase, right? Preparing them for implementation. So again, broadly, New Jersey Sea Grant, Stevens Institute, Urban Coast Institute of Monmouth, and DEP's Bureau of Climate Resilience Planning, through kind of different avenues here, will work with disadvantaged and overburdened communities in various ways to co-design those natural and nature-based projects. Further, Sea Grant, Stevens, and Monmouth University will establish a coastal restoration extension and credentialing program to train practitioners on successful coastal ecological restoration and community resilience. And the Rutgers Center for Remote Sensing and Spatial Analysis, CRSA, will enhance and expand the New Jersey Coastal Ecological Restoration and Adaptation Planning Tool, CRAP, for those of you who work better in acronyms, to operate as a user-friendly portal to support kind of projects and decision-making around restoration, including planning, design, and implementation. Kind of in that same vein, we are also the program, the Building a Climate Ready NJ will be supporting some of DEP's ongoing initiatives to expand its urban state parks. The State Park Service and Office of Natural Resource Damages will lead efforts to develop design plans for phase 2 of the Liberty State Park Revitalization Program. That will improve and enhance existing coastal habitats, benefit neighboring communities, and provide new public recreational opportunities. They will also develop community-supported innovative concept designs for a new state park on the Camden waterfront. So very excited about those. Right, and kind of moving through that process, right, we get to implementation, and there are multiple transformational resilience projects that will be constructed through this award, right? And so, through community engagement and regional planning, right, we've identified a couple of those projects and that will address a range of issues stemming from climate change impacts, such as flooding, degraded water quality, loss of habitat. Will include kind of both green and gray infrastructure, which also allows the projects to provide kind of those co-benefits to communities, right? Again, such as recreational opportunities, right? Improved air quality, kind of some heat island mitigation, and increased access to the waterways and to our New Jersey's waterways and natural areas. So a little bit of more detail. Rutgers Cooperative Extension Water Resources Program will design and construct up to 60 neighborhood scale green infrastructure projects to improve stormwater management in Newark, Patterson, and Perth Amboy. The Meadowlands Research and Restoration Institute, this is Terry, will restore the vegetated marshlands of the Sawmill Creek Wildlife Management Area. And the DEP Division of Resilience Engineering and Construction will build a new riverfront park in Little Ferry, which will include public access improvements, as well as providing resilience to the community and restoring the area's native habitat. Through those implementation projects, right, and in coordination with those projects, there are also multiple training and workforce development opportunities, right, and really intended to support the longevity of the work beyond the 5-year life of the grant. So two that I'll call out first are the New Jersey Institute of Technology Center for Natural Resources will provide hands-on learning opportunities for Newark area community college students on the design and monitoring of those green infrastructure projects. The Watson Institute for Urban Policy and Research at Kean University and the Rutgers Cooperative Extension Water Resources Program will work together to launch a green infrastructure training and entrepreneurship initiative to empower an emerging group of professionals in green infrastructure construction. So kind of beyond the workforce development aspects, right, there is also significant effort on on education, climate awareness, training, and engagement. If you would see this written out, it has a very clever acronym, which I'm quite proud of. It's the New Jersey Educate, Education, Climate Awareness, Training, and Education Engagement Initiative. So that's going to foster and intended to foster an enduring capacity through all of the many tasks and activities that I've gone through here. Right, it's to support equitable adaptation within the region through education, trainings, and entrepreneurship. It will ensure that the benefits of the projects really go beyond the typical decision makers and professional audiences. Right, make sure that we're getting down to the community. The Educate initiative will provide broad education, training, and engagement initiatives across the region. And the many activities I'm going to touch on here will be coordinated by Rutgers University's Department of Marine and Coastal Sciences. So a couple of the partners working on this and their kind of high level description of their work. Right, so is the Jacques Cousteau National Estuarine Research Reserve will expand the use of community science app MyCoast for community engagement and education on coastal risk communications. Barnegat Bay Partnership will develop and host innovative climate resilience programming at the Novins Planetarium at Ocean County College. Partnership for the Delaware Estuary will expand on their successful Urban Waters Initiative to reach more communities in the Delaware Bayshore. The New York, New Jersey Harbor and Estuary Program will empower community stakeholders to use climate data and tools to inform watershed management and climate resilience decision-making. And Rutgers 4-H Youth Development Program will launch a K-12 research practice partnership to support educators teach about climate change and climate resilience and to support student environmental action. Finally, the New Jersey Environmental Justice Alliance is also a partner with us on the initiative, and they will work with us across many tasks with many of these partners to provide guidance and assistance, kind of communicating, doing outreach and engagement with our disadvantaged and overburdened communities that we prioritize throughout the initiative. So I just talked at you a lot. That was a lot to kind of understand. I will note that there is a fairly basic website on this that we will be building out, but you can also find that at climateready.nj.gov. You'll see notice a trend in our websites here. I'm happy to answer some questions, and also I'm happy to point to some task leads as appropriate.
Yes, we're still a little ahead in the agenda, so if you have any questions for Nick, please put them in the chat or raise your hand, and hopefully Amanda, Laura, Tom, you'll help me look for people's raised hands. Nick, I had a question. I saw an outline with all these different task areas described before with the leads. Is that available on the webpage so that if we want to connect with any of the leads of the different sections, we're able to do that?
Yes, there is a fact sheet which you can find on that webpage, which is pretty much what I just presented to everybody. But yeah, if you need kind of, if you don't remember exactly what I said for the last 10 minutes, yeah, that fact sheet will you can kind of, well, you can use as like a cheat sheet to know kind of those major tasks and who's lead on them. I was reminded, thank you, Lisa, that we also have 2 coastal resilience fellows that'll be coming to us from NOAA. And so one of them, where the announcement for those fellows has just gone out recently, which Lisa, Tom, we might want to share with this group if we haven't already. One will work with Lisa on kind of help her do the coordination of the various NJ Educate initiatives there. And one will work at Monmouth University to assist in some of the engagement with our disadvantaged and overburdened communities. Lisa and Tom, if there's detail you want to add on that, please feel free.
Good.
I could just say that recruitment is active through NOAA right now until the end of February, I believe. And we can send the flyer about it if we haven't already through the base camp.
It was my intention to post it to Basecamp. I just didn't get to it yet.
I can certainly drop the link to the NOAA page in the chat, but the deadline is coming up. It's February 28th. So if you are interested, take a look at the link and certainly apply.
And I think I'll also request that folks, particularly those of you, well, please share. And, we always, are looking for kind of broad spread of this information to as broad a range of people as possible.
Well, if there's no more questions, I just want to really thank you, Nick, and congratulate the department for getting this award. It's amazing, particularly looking at the uncertainty moving forward with the federal government. It's great that New Jersey has this opportunity to do all of this terrific work, and that the Coastal Resilience Collaborative was able to play a role in, in our ability to make connections, to make this, application more competitive. So it's terrific. I wonder, if we should be putting, a standard agenda item, for an update on what's happening with the different components of this grant, on our full membership meeting agendas. I think that might be appropriate moving forward.
I certainly defer to the group, but I would hope that on a 6-month basis we would have significant information to report out.
Great, thank you. Thanks so much. Does anybody have any questions about anything that was said earlier in the agenda about the collaborative, where processes with nominations or membership? We just have a couple minutes, so if anybody has a burning question, please go ahead. All right. I'm not going to wait. So if not, then we're going to move on to the next agenda item, which is our guest speakers. So this is super exciting. Brian Bogle from the Army Corps of Engineers is going to present on the New Jersey Back Bay's Coastal Storm Risk Management Feasibility Study. So looking forward to this presentation. Brian, are you all set? Are you able to present?
Brian, you're muted.
All right, I'm just about to share my PowerPoint presentation. Let me get to that. Is everyone seeing that PowerPoint slide, the first slide?
Yeah, it looks great. Yeah, the presentation mode. Thank you.
Okay, great. So I'm Brian Vogel, Senior Water Resource Planner from the Philadelphia District, and I'm here to go over New Jersey Back Bay's Coastal Storm Risk Management Feasibility Study report that just was released in December of 2024, and introduce some of the concepts and ideas and reformulation that we went through on the new report. I did want to mention our non-federal sponsor is New Jersey DEP Office of Coastal Engineering. They are a sponsor with us for all of our studies and construction projects. I'm not sure if someone from the Office of Coastal Engineering is on the call right now, but feel free to introduce yourself or give a short introduction if you prefer. If not, I can just move along. All right, getting on to the next slide. So a brief agenda. I have about 15 more slides to go. I want to go through them somewhat quickly to leave room for questions at the end. We'll go through the study's authority, the study area, a brief history of the study, some decisions to modify the recommendation that went out in August of 2021, the current plan, the schedule, and I'll leave some room for some questions at the end, hopefully. So the study authority, this is the study authority that governs most of our recommendations for our coastal projects. And it gives us the authority to, I'm not going to read all these words, this is a lot. It gives us the authority to study the entire coast of New Jersey for changing coastal processes within New Jersey to prevent harmful effects of shoreline erosion and storm damage for studies related to beach erosion control, hurricane protection, and related purposes. So that's what drives our ability to do investigations like the one we're performing right now for New Jersey Back Bay and other studies like most of our coastal program and beach fill projects. The study area, it's a large study area. It's the rivers and bay mouths landward of the barrier and including the barrier islands of the Atlantic Ocean basin coastline of the state of New Jersey. There's more than 950 square miles in the study area and 3,500 linear feet of shoreline. It consists of 89 municipalities across 5 counties. It has an inventory of about 172,000 structures valued at $72 billion. So we all know the value of the coastal community to New Jersey. We identified about 30,000 structures considered highly vulnerable. And these structures are primarily residential structures, public apartment, high-rise, and industrial and commercial structures. Our initial calculations indicate that without project, so with no project in place to protect these properties, the average annual damages are about $2.6 billion over the 50-year life of the economic analysis. So there's a lot of high-value properties and infrastructure in coastal New Jersey. And as you can see, the study area is broken out to northern, central, southern reaches. So northern reaches being within Monmouth County and Ocean County, and the central region of Atlantic County and southern region of Cape May County. So the brief history of the Back Bay study, we released a report in August of 2021. This report was a combination of structural measures and non-structural measures to address coastal flood risk management. The structural measures consisted of 3 inlet storm surge barriers, 2 cross bay barriers, and nature-based solutions. The non-structural measures consisted of elevating residential structures and flood-proofing of commercial structures. The non-structural measures were designed to protect areas that the structural measures would not protect during large storms. So the storm surge barriers were located at Barnegat Inlet, Manasquan Inlet, and Great Egg Inlet. And the non-structural recommendations were throughout the study area not protected by those features. So this is just a schematic of what the 2021 report looked like. So as you can see, if you can see my cursor here, this is the storm surge barrier that was recommended for Barnegat Inlet. This is the one that was recommended for Great Egg Inlet. And sorry, going back up top, this is the one that was recommended for Manasquan Inlet. And the areas in the orange cross hatching were going to be non-structural recommendations, so home elevations and floodproofing. And these were the cross bay barriers that were also included to work in conjunction with the storm surge barrier at Great Egg Harbor Inlet. And again, non-structural solutions down here, mainly in Cape May County. The initial construction for this August 2021 recommendation was about $16 billion, and it had significant operations and maintenance requirements for the state of New Jersey. So some decisions post-August 2021, we received a significant amount of comments on the storm surge barriers. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and NJDEP recognized the importance of these comments, and specifically as they relate to the potential impacts of the storm surge barriers on the environment. So we determined that a project of this size would require a significant amount of additional research in order to determine what those impacts were going to be. And we took a step back to identify what parts of the 2021 plan could be done in the immediate future to help protect New Jersey Back Bay communities against the larger coastal storms while continuing to study the larger structural features. So part of the problem is if we take these large storm surge barriers out at Barnegat Inlet and Manasquan Inlet, and we just pull them out of the plan, there's a lot of residual risk in this area right here, and this area right here, with no recommendation for the storm surge barriers. So what we recommended was in our November 2024 plan that was released in December 20th, that's currently out for review, is taking a step back and recommending actionable items for non-structural solutions across the study area in the areas that we've recommended previously and in the areas that would have previously been protected by the storm surge barriers. So that consisted of elevating about 6,400 residential structures within the 20% floodplain to the 1% base flood elevation in 2080 that also accounted for intermediate rates of sea level rise. It also consisted of floodproofing of 279 critical infrastructure elements, including police, fire, ambulance, hospital, and pharmacy. Nature-based solutions at approximately 7 locations in the Back Bay area for restoration of salt marsh habitat, and an initial construction cost of approximately $7.6 billion. So cost went down, environmental impacts went down, and we recommended a plan in this December 2024 report that we think is actionable in the short term. And so here's the breakdown of some of the properties that are going to be elevated within each region. So in the coastal lakes, North region, Central region, and South region, those are the number breakdowns. Mainly elevations in the North region and Central region and South region, with flood proofing of critical infrastructure also in all those regions. So the outline of the study area is shown in black, and the 5% floodplain is shown in blue. And that gives you an indication of, the area that we're recommending solutions in right now and the area that we've studied. So there's a little bit of residual risk implementing this plan. It's a smaller plan than we had initially recommended, but we think it's implementable and actionable, and we're going to be able to hopefully start construction in 2030 to 2040 timeframe. And I'll go over the schedule towards the end. Here's some of the map of locations for nature-based solutions. We had an extensive list of nature-based solution opportunities in the Back Bay area. This consists of restoring degraded salt marsh with dredge material from dredge material confined disposal facilities. So these are the 7 locations we're recommending based on proximity to dredge material disposal locations, degraded salt marsh habitat, and priorities from, I think, New Jersey DOT or DEP for some locations that they had prioritized to us. So compare and contrast 2021 to 2024. So the 2021 plan had 3 inlet storm surge barriers. 2024 plan is those are deferred. It also had 2 cross bay storm surge barriers recommended for the 2021 plan. Those are also deferred. For non-structural solutions, we previously recommended elevating 16,000 structures. This plan is elevating less at 6,400 structures. Non-structural floodproofing, we previously recommended 2,800 solutions for non-structural floodproofing. We're down to 279 critical infrastructure elements for floodproofing. And structural, we're going to recommend nature-based solutions for both plans, but we have a more concrete plan for 2024 with 7 locations selected for implementation. We recognize that this is going to take some time to implement. It's probably going to be a 10 to 12-year implementation plan starting in 2030. The idea is to break out the non-structural and critical infrastructure solutions by study area hydraulic units, similarly to how we broke them out for the initial plan formulation. So each area could be organized by selecting natural aggregates of elevations and flood proofing. Then these aggregates would then be prioritized for implementation based on the study team or vertical team criteria related to risk level, size, needs, benefits, economic, environmental justice, prioritization. So we're not going to construct 6,400 structures. We're not going to elevate 6,400 structures at one time. We're likely going to break it out and try to elevate portions of the study area over time over this 10-year period. So that's fully spelled out in the implementation plan in the feasibility report that's on the district website that I'll get to. There's a slide in the end about some websites that you can access the report. So this is the schedule. I highlighted 2 bullets, task number 2 and task number 11. Task number 2 is the draft report that went out in December of 2020. That's currently being reviewed. I think the review time frame goes to about mid-February. So we'll be accepting comments until mid-February from agencies and the general public. And the goal is task 11, Water Resources Development Act 2026. So we want to get this report as a draft. We want to get to a draft report and then incorporate the comments, re-release a final report so we can summarize this study in a chief's report in May of 2026. So we are prepared for a Water Resources Development Act 2026 study recommendation. So that's the schedule. And access to the feasibility report and environmental impact statement is in that website below. I think I should provide these slides to Tom so we can possibly circulate, or maybe you can post it so you can have access to these web links. But it's on the district home website, the Philadelphia District Home website at the website listed below. And I hope I left a little bit of time for questions and discussion. So please, I'll open it up to anybody who has questions.
Seeing none, this is Liz Heppel from TNC again. Like the 7, I'm sorry, I haven't delved into the huge document yet in great detail, but the 7 beneficial use nature-based solution projects really jump out to me. And I'm wondering, you know, kind of why those, was there a cost benefit analysis done? Could this be expanded to a larger number? Would this all be the Army Corps of Engineers implementation of these projects, planning and implementation for them?
Yeah, these would be planned and implemented by the Corps of Engineers with New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection as part of the construction, as part of the initial construction that would hopefully be implemented starting in about 2030. There was initial screening of sites. These are the sites that are the most degraded and also the most the closest proximity to sources of material that we could find to restore the wetland habitat. So that's what made these sites stand out over other sites.
And Brian, I'm here if you need to.
Oh, thanks, Alex. Alex was primarily the driver for the nature-based solutions.
Yeah, as you know, just real quick, as Brian said, things started, big, extra large consideration, sort of on that scale, and on the same sort of scaling down to more actionable elements to make this a plan that could be done, now with similar as the removal of the storm surge barriers. This shifted to these smaller scale type things, trying to conserve, more cost effective to conserve certain sites than building entirely new features, especially given the benefits of salt marsh. And so these were seen as the lessons learned from NBS in general of working with where sediment is. And there's been a lot of groups here today and across the state have been making leaps and bounds over recent years on beneficial use. And here we're trying to leverage, engineer with nature on conserving a few of these key sites. They were you can see in Appendix G2, but looked at sort of public lands. But most importantly, these were strategic locations which were near dredge material placement facilities, i.e. that we are considering getting material from, as well as they're indicative that there's sediment in that area, because unlike a lot of the other BU practices that have happened in the back bays where the priority has been definitely based on navigation channel shoaling and habitat restoration, these are a CSRM lens. Hence, we're trying to get them at places where, you know, if these marshes were to degrade in the future, they would be opening up further wave energy towards areas that see greater inundation by the end of the study area. And so there's a array in that second appendix where you can look at some of those factors, but they included, you know, public lands at federal, state, or local level, as well as location and a few other factors there. But mainly it's from that strategic location for sort of holding back some wave energy, because even with the largest extra large cross bay barriers, we weren't going to hold that water back from the inundation. And so we sort of pivoted towards trying to at least mitigate some of that wave energy. And, you know, last point I'll put in here, you know, given the schedule of this study, you know, it's so we are trying to choose things that stay, you know, in a good lane and not get in the way of other good work as well. And sort of we hopefully have aligned, you know, in a proper channel there, rather than trying to predict, you know, that there will be shoaling in 2033 along this, you know, mile to mile of the intercoastal waterway or state channel here, you know, by choosing sites which are where we know sediment is, you know, we can implement this plan.
Hey, Alex, I think there's some other hands raised.
Yeah, I have
others.
Angela Anderson. Do you want to ask your question? I see it's in the chat, but if you want to ask it.
Yeah, I did want to point out that there were some questions happening in the chat. And I just wanted to, you know, focus on specifically some of the projects that we're working on. But in choosing the sites, they're not only close proximity. For instance, Parker's Island and Eastern Marsh Shelter actually are confined sites, right? Almost in the entirety of Parker Island is a confined disposal, you know, site. Eastern Marsh Shelter also. We are working on a project for Western Marsh Shelter under a NIFWIF grant right now, identifying through our Bay Islands team and the Bay Island Restoration Planner, how you know, we're putting comments together as a municipal government. How will that how will those interface, right? The already projects that are under project management with partners on this call and many others. That's, you know, sort of one part of it. You know, and how can we look at this in the bigger picture with you to make sure that all of the projects that we are working on are not compromised in some way, or that they can be enhanced, or that we can look at it in a more holistic way in each of the regions, say, for instance.
So to, you know, to your
Alex.
point there, you know, we welcome all, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Alex.
Well, you know, welcome all comments there, you know, on these sites. You know, we base this off of, there's a lot of groups doing a lot of work out there, and did try to have some conversations and, you know, use the basis for this on going through a few iterations. A lot of these sites came from the CRAP tool on trying to use a comprehensive sort of site identification list, but also, you know, aware of, as your examples, you mentioned Parker Island, East Marsh Elder. Yes, half of those sites are CDFs, and they were low-hanging fruit towards, you know, there are marsh extensions there, and they may be smaller, you know, marsh platform extension, but, you know, forecasts of, you know, if those marsh disappear, they are small yet in front of areas with decent inundation on the Barrier Island communities and Beach Haven there. And hence they were obvious sites to try to distribute some of that material towards maintaining those marsh extensions of those CDFs islands there, and hence sort of type there. But no, we obviously will need to keep in contact here as things go forward towards refining this. And obviously, you know, there's different timelines, you know, that this is all all operating on this, and we may have to adaptively manage in some cases if site conditions change along the way. And that is part of a challenge of a study of this scale, not only in across the state but in time too, right? And it's just, we had to shoot for some more concrete sort of sites here. And our final array of looking at some of these sites up and down from Cape May to the northern end of the study area had a few more in there. But the hard part, at least for us, and again going back to the success in sites, has been where the sediment is, right? Even if we're looking through a CSRM lens. And the honest truth is there is a lot more sediment, at least in the southern half of the study area, especially at least from the federal lens, compared towards obvious concrete locations in space in the northern half, and that at least are within certain distances and such. And so that's a little bit, plus the public land thing that did end up and skew things a little bit towards the center there, along with there's more open water there. So the more strategic island marsh complexes and such were towards the north, but more sediment was towards the south, and hence a bit of an offset there and some overlap in the middle.
Thanks very much for the question and the comments. Kamal, I see you have a question. Do you want to read it out or say it, ask it?
I was just going to ask about the 6,400 structures that was mentioned. I was just wondering how they will, or what's the plan on dealing with them?
So that's, like I said, that's spelled out in the implementation plan. The idea is just to, again, group these structures in natural aggregates based on risk level, and then probably prioritize certain areas based on coordination with our local sponsor, and then start the process of the implementation plan of, contacting homeowners if they're determined to be eligible, going through the eligibility process. It's a voluntary program. We're not mandatory requiring these people to elevate these homes. Okay. And if they're interested, they can apply. Then they go through an application process that eventually gives us rights of entry to do inspections and do surveys to get concrete base flood elevations and to look through the property to make sure it's structurally sound. There's some real estate easements that have to be negotiated with the sponsor. It's going to be a pretty lengthy process. So the idea is get started on that first group, identify the first group, get that group started in the first year two, get started on your second group, because a lot of these things are going to be going in parallel if we're going to get it done in 10 years with this many structures.
So that construction, the construction cost of 7.6 billion, is that where some of that funding would go to assist with that, or no?
Yeah, so it's 7.6 billion cost share between the federal government and the non-federal sponsor, who's the NJDEP. So the 35% can be broken out however NJDEP wants to break it out. So the federal government, if a house costs $100,000 to raise, we'll pay $65,000. Costs are much greater than that. I'm just trying to make the math kind of simple here. The federal government would be showing up with $65,000. The remaining 35 would be a non-federal cost share that would be some combination of state funding, local, municipal, or personal funding that they would have to put up front.
If they don't participate, or choose not to?
It's just whether they choose that's part of the application process. If they choose not to participate, they're not going to fill out the application and get the process started, and they wouldn't be part of the program. We did assume 100% participation rate for the costs and benefits. We performed a sensitivity analysis to reduced participation rates. So if 75 people participate, what are the benefits? If 50%, if 25%, what are the benefits? So we do have those numbers outlined in the feasibility report for sensitivity to participation rate. The 6,400 number is assuming 100% participation.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
There are a couple more questions from our municipal representatives, Angela Anderson and Alyssa Cummings, about the connection between community actions and processes now and this plan. Is there an avenue to have coordination between the planning and implementation of this plan and what's going on at the local level?
And by that, do you mean like current plans for home elevations as part of the hazard mitigation program and FEMA?
Alyssa or Angela, do you want to articulate the question any better than I did?
I'm not sure that was my question or not. So if we do coastal restoration projects, is there a risk that our projects will in fact impact your cost benefit analysis, and do I risk losing eligibility for my homeowners because I've actually restored the marshes or areas around them and now the cost benefit no longer is in their favor?
I don't see risk for that for restoration projects. Is that what you're referring to, like ecosystem restoration projects?
Typically, yes, we won't do. We haven't embarked in any HMGP funding.
Okay, so for restoration projects, I think this is a coastal storm risk management project. What we've seen in some of the analysis and some of the work that Alex has put together on his modeling is the restoration of salt marsh does have, positive impacts to reducing wave height and some erosion effects, but it's kind of marginal compared to other solutions like just raising the house out of the floodplain. So I would say continue on with what you're doing for restoration. I don't think it would impact our benefit cost analysis negatively. Alex, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, that's the struggle with developing nature-based solutions under our former, current former regime of, cost benefits for within that, while we as the Corps are moving towards a more appreciation of comprehensive benefits, the majority of benefits, as Brian said, are carried forth within the, non-structural elevation and flood proofing of homes. And, this is adding another, another element, of a little bit further resiliency and redundancy at a few of these, strategic sites, but they are, not cost, just cost justified purely on their own, I guess I can say, Brian, right? So it's definitely do, decrease damage some, but as far as individual cost, it's a little bit different there. And that there's a reason all the marsh restoration and conservation projects for the most part are tied to navigation projects by the state and federal government, right? And here we're trying to, we do that to the best we can. We can't necessarily perfectly count on that. So to be short, yeah, no, you are not gonna shoot yourself in the foot there. And
yeah, I would continue.
Very good, thank you.
And the big thing, keep in mind right here, and we keep in mind for the MBS, the marsh conservation in there too. It's not a one and done for any of these, right? And I think that's for all this part of this study, right, Brian? You have to keep in mind our schedule right now. This is the study, and the study will get finished and a chief's report, and that leads to something that goes to Congress. They then have to fund it still, right? So we're still a few years out from actually boots on the ground. And so
yeah, there's no guarantee that this draft report is going to lead to a final report and lead to congressional funding. And the schedule we've outlined is the optimistic future for this study and future for the implementation, which we have to identify a schedule in order to do the economics and the costs and things like that. But there's always risk for these projects being implemented.
We have to move on because we do have a full agenda. We hopefully will have some time for some more questions on the other end of the other presentation.
I'm going to check, Liz. I was the first one with my hand up, and I know you don't like my questions, but to move on at this point, I don't think is right.
And who is this? I'm sorry.
This is Ross Kushner for the New Jersey Coastal Alliance.
Thanks, Ross, for participating and wanting to ask a question, but we have two other presentations, and if you save your question and we get back to questions, I'm sure that we will call on you. But and there's the opportunity to comment, through the core comment process. So now we're going to move on to Scott Douglas, and he's going to present on the New Jersey Back Bay's Regional Sediment Management Framework.
I'm going to object again, and I'm glad this is being recorded.
Okay.
If you put your comment or question in the chat, I can get to it while the other presentations are ongoing. I'll try my best.
Thank you. Scott, are you ready?
Yep, I'm here, Liz. I think you guys have the slides.
Yeah, they're up, or they're started at least.
Oh, there we are. Okay. All right, good. Well, thank you, Liz and Tom and Laura for inviting me here. Tom asked me to review the Regional Sediment Management Framework that New Jersey has developed for the Atlantic Back Bay region. And before I get into it, they didn't really do introductions, but I think at the last meeting of this group, I mentioned that I am recently retired from NJDOT after 30 years of being the dredging program manager. I am working to help OMR with its transition, and I just want to take a moment to introduce Nusrat Jahan, who is my successor as dredging program manager, and Nusrat is on the in the room today. So when you have questions, that's who you're reaching out to, and you can always reach out to me through her. So there's that. So if next slide. All right, so what's a regional sediment management framework anyway? Essentially, it's a consensus document that describes the need to dredge, the amount of sediment that needs to be managed, the potential management options for that material, and the barriers that stand in the way of doing that. It's important to note that this framework is a plan. It's not policy, regulation, or law. It's more of a consensus document of all the agencies that are involved in dredging. And it provides a pathway of implementation for those agencies that we all have agreed to needs to happen in order to fulfill the overall vision of keeping as much sediment in the system as possible. It's more of like a touchstone. This is what we've all decided and agreed to is the current status and where we're going. Next slide. So what we did was pretty straightforward. We assembled a team of agency representatives that are involved with dredging and dredge material management. For this case, we also wanted to make sure to include those agencies that might want to utilize dredge material for habitat or resiliency. That's a little bit different than the way RSM works in other parts of the country, and even in other parts of the state. But that is a particularly important part, as you all know, for our overall state goals of the coastal zone. So each of those agencies to start out with collaborated on white papers that provided a baseline of information about various technical aspects of dredging and sediment management in the Back Bay region. And topics ranged from sediment characterization to dredging engineering to sediment dynamics. We tried to cover what all the technical issues that are out there for this region for dredging and dredge material management. The team also called in various outside subject matter experts as needed from around the state and even around the country to give their perspectives and to share experiences to try to get as much information as possible about how to do this. And all this information was compiled into what now is the framework. In addition, the team discussed barriers to implementation of innovative beneficial use and finally wrapped up with recommendations for making the process more predictable and hopefully less costly. Next slide. So this is our team of the steering committee. I would say the team is bigger than this. It involved as many people as we thought we needed, including some outreach to various and sundry non-governmental agencies that are concerned about dredging and dredge material management. But the steering committee was NJDOT, NJDEP, U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, the Army Corps of Engineers, both from Philly and New York District, and the Barnegat Bay Partnership. We started in April of 2023, and the document is in the very last throes of review. I think you and G are finalizing the last minute text reviews, Liz, and this document should be available for public review and use in weeks, I would imagine, but certainly by the end of February. That would be the goal. It will be available online. I'm probably not going. I'm going to save some polar bears and not print a whole bunch of copies of this. We will provide links, and certainly this group will be well aware of it. Next slide. Just some context. The geographic scope of the document or of the plan is from Sandy Hook to Cape May. So there's a lot of other dredging that goes on in the state. This particular plan was for that coastal zone, what DEP calls the Atlantic Coastal Zone. Our marine transportation system in the region is comprised of the 117-mile federal intercoastal waterway and the 4 federal inlets, as well as 200 miles of state navigation channel that provide access to the intercoastal waterway. And there are also local and private channels and berths. We don't have a really good map of those, but we have estimates of what we think are out there for local and private infrastructure. Next slide. So anytime we want to dredge, we're going to have to deal with the sediment, right? So if we dredge everything that was needed, it would amount to 1.2 to 1.5 million cubic yards per year. That's a significant amount of material. We rarely get enough funding to even come close to that. Our annual dredging budget usually allows us to dredge somewhere between 300 and 500,000 cubic yards per year between the state and federal channels. We don't have a good handle on what the locals are spending. Next. So when we do dredge, we need to manage the material somewhere. And historically in this region, dredge material has either been placed on a beach, if sandy, and a suitable beach is available, or in an upland confined disposal facility. And we heard Brian talking about CDFs and Alex about the possibility of taking material out of CDFs and using it for habitat. Obviously, that would be less desirable than direct placement, but there's certainly plenty of opportunity for both. We still rely heavily on confined disposal facilities and beach fills to manage our dredge material, and we will continue to do so because they are less expensive and reliable. However, and unfortunately, there are locations throughout the Atlantic Coastal Zone where neither option is available. That photo in the center of that slide with those white circles shows areas where we do not have traditional disposal or management areas, and we need to go with more innovative new strategies. Next slide. So we have this shortfall, yet we still need to maintain a safe and efficient marine transportation system. So what we've proposed to do is to align the transportation, land management, and coastal resiliency initiatives to manage our dredge material. That doesn't mean that any one of those gets everything that they need or want, but if we work together, there's an opportunity to share resources and for all of us to gain, and overall the state and the coastal zone to benefit. Next slide. So both the Corps and the state have spent the last decade or so exploring innovative strategies to manage our dredge material, ranging from renewing CDF capacity through excavation, which is what Alex was talking about, to relocating dredge material to enhance benthic habitat, to a marsh platform enhancement. And these projects not only provide capacity for dredge material management, but also provide benefits for coastal habitat and community resilience by keeping sediment in the coastal zone, and to use it as nature intended to maintain our coastal ecosystems. Next slide. And we've been very successful over the last decade in moving away from disposal towards beneficial use. More and more of these natural and nature-based feature projects. As of right now, we beneficially use about 2/3 of the material we dredge. And most of these actually utilize the material in the coastal zone, but some still is removed for construction and remedial cover like landfill capping and landfill daily cover. The remaining material is still placed into CDFs, but the long-term strategy on CDFs is that that's a temporary stop. CDFs are very convenient, but they are finite in capacity. So as a long-term management strategy, they really don't work. So the idea would be to try to get as much material out of those, either not put it in there to begin with, or to try to get it out as quickly as possible and use it beneficially. Next slide. So one of the key findings, if you haven't gathered it, is that sediment is a valuable resource to the coastal ecosystem. Keeping it in the coastal zone nourishes habitat and provides resiliency against sea level rise and storm surge, which has only been getting worse. It does not seem likely that this trend is going to change. So really the next step for us was to say how much sediment is needed to keep up with those ongoing changes. Is the amount of material that the navigation program is looking to dredge more or less than what is needed for the habitat and coastal resiliency efforts? And what we found out is that the potential need out there far exceeds anything that the navigation program could provide. So as far as a transportation plan is concerned, all we really needed to do is to come up with a clear and cost-efficient pathway to beneficially use as much sediment in the coastal system as possible. Next slide. So what do we need to do to get there? Well, there's a couple of key issues that the team identified. One of the bigger issues is the cost and timelines associated with innovative beneficial use, which can be, not always, but can be considerably more than traditional techniques. That varies from agency to agency and project to project, and there's no real definitive way to say it, except that in general, it costs more to do natural and nature-based features than it does to do more traditional methods. That's an ongoing story. Another is to ensure that the generators, users, and regulators of sediment are on the same page with regard to what is practicable and permissible. Practicable being a core speak for we can do this project, we know how to engineer it, and it's cost effective. We have enough money to pay for it. So permissible, obviously, is you can get a permit from DEP, so that what we're proposing to do is legally defensible. Both of those things need to be hashed out. The historical regulatory process was not conducive to beneficial use. That is in the process of being revised, and hopefully with these new real rules that Nick mentioned earlier in the meeting, this is going to help a lot in making the permitting process easier and more predictable. And easier and more predictable in my world means cheaper. So all of that is good. Next slide. So what are some of the key recommendations? Like I said, you're going to be able to see this document for yourself very soon, but some of the key steps moving forward, some of which you already know about. We need the state to articulate a very clear policy from the very highest levels regarding keeping sediment in the system to the extent practicable without jeopardizing the safety of the marine transportation system. That is something that has worked in the past. It certainly worked in New York Harbor when we moved from ocean disposal to upland beneficial use for remediation. Having a clear directive coming right from the top makes it much easier for everybody to do their job. Know what's expected, everybody knows what's coming down, and we make things happen. So the group recommended that be done in this case as well. The next thing was to establish a regional dredging team for this region so that government agencies can all share and know what they're thinking and doing ahead of time. That's a internal government meeting that has been very successful in the New York Harbor and the Delaware region. So we're recommending that that be done for the Atlantic Coastal Zone as well. At our last meeting of this group, we talked about a restoration task force. That is, and it's been mentioned in the chat a few times, as a way to make sure that we don't step on each other with regard to these projects, whether it's a core project, a state project, or a local municipal project. We need to be sharing those and making sure that we are going after the low-hanging fruit, if you will. There's a lot of projects with way more need out there than we have sediment. We should be picking and choosing our projects, not only to be close to the dredging, because they need to be, but also that they're ones that have a broad understanding that there's a need, a purpose and a need for that restoration project. So that's really important that that task force meet and to do their work. And the last thing that I'll leave you with is that we are not going to get away from the fact that these are more expensive in a lot of cases, or at least take longer, and time is money. So we need to rethink the way we look at navigation projects and beneficial use. If the projects are going to be more expensive, but the benefits are to the state's advantage, we just need to capture that somehow, and to provide the appropriate level of funding. Otherwise, what happens is that I end up being able to do less dredging. And that's usually not acceptable. We are currently dealing with still a very large backlog of dredging in the Back Bay area and really in various other places in the state as well. And having less available funding per project just makes that problem worse. So we need to approach that with some rapidity and and alacrity, I will say. It's something that needs to be resolved sooner rather than later. And that's what I have. I think that, that was a really quick trying to get us back on track. I think I did that for you. I'll turn it back to Tom, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Scott, I think we're going to have to skip questions at this point just because we're, a few minutes, we're running a few minutes late. If there's time at the end, we'll, rope back to them, but please put your questions and comments in the chat and, presenters keep an eye on that. Lisa, are you ready and prepared to update us on the state redevelopment plan?
Yep. And good afternoon, everybody. I will be doing a quick update on the State Development and Redevelopment Plan. Just for a brief background, the State Development and Redevelopment Plan is in response to the mandate of the New Jersey legislature contained in the State Planning Act. The act was signed into law on January 2nd, 1986. And the act is what created the State Planning Commission, and it required the commission to prepare and adopt the state plan and to revise and readopt at least every 3 years thereafter. The last state plan was adopted in 2001, so we're just a little late. The preliminary State Development and Redevelopment Plan was approved for release by the State Planning Commission on December 4th of 2024, and we had released and noticed it on December 6th of 2024. This release is what has started the clock on our cross-acceptance process. And for those of you who are not familiar with the cross-acceptance process, it's a bottom-up approach to planning designed to encourage consistency between municipalities, counties, regional, and the state plans, so that we can create like a meaningful, up-to-date, viable state plan. The counties during cross-acceptance act as a negotiating entity between the State Planning Commission and their respective municipalities. If a county waives as a negotiating entity, then they are waiving with the intent to forfeit and waive its statutory authority to participate in cross-acceptance. So far, only one county has waived, and in that event of a waiver, the State Planning Commission can designate an appropriate entity or itself to assume the responsibility for that county. And so for this one county that has waived, we hired Grohl & Associates as our consultant, and they're acting as our negotiating entity for that county. In the meantime, starting from the release, OPA is required to conduct public informational meetings on the preliminary plan in each of the 21 counties. The purpose of these 21 meetings is to educate the public on how the cross-acceptance process will work and to give members of the public, the state, local, and county officials, as well as any other interested parties, an opportunity to learn and comment on the plan. And these meetings have to be conducted between 45 days and 90 days after the release. So that gave us a window right now between February 12th and April 16th to hold all 21 meetings. And because of the time of year we're doing this, we're also scheduling snow dates. So instead of having to schedule 21, we're scheduling 42 meetings in a 45-day period. And our project manager, Jackie Rivera, is in the process of scheduling all those meetings. At this time, we have confirmed 19 of the 21 counties. These are all going to be in-person meetings. And we are also holding a meeting, an in-person meeting with the Highlands Council, since the Highlands Council will be acting as the negotiating entity for the municipalities within the Highlands. We will be posting the final schedule of the public meetings on our website, but we did confirm all the February dates. There will be a second notice that goes out for the March and April ones once they're finalized, but for these February public notice, it's scheduled to be published on January 28th. And very quickly, the Cumberland County one is February 12th from 6 to 8 p.m. Mercer County is February 18th from 6 to 8 p.m. Salem is February 19th, 5 to 7. Somerset County is February 20 from 6 to 8 p.m. Warren is February 24 from 6 to 8 p.m. Union County is February 25th from 6 to 8 p.m. Essex County is February 26th from 2 to 4 p.m. And Morris County is a February 28th from 10 a.m. to noon, and they will be having a hybrid option. Again, this schedule will be posted on our website, as long with all this other information that I'm saying. Everything is on our website. So just going back to the negotiating entity's responsibilities, they are required to submit us a draft work program outlining how the negotiating entity will be working with their respective municipalities, how they're going to be doing their meetings, how they're going to check for consistencies. And each participating municipality has to submit a cross-acceptance response template. And that the purpose of that response template is to summarize the municipality's consistency with their plans and the state plan, and we come to agreements and disagreements. Right now, they are checking for consistency between 10 goals. The 2001 state plan had 8 goals, and those goals included revitalizing states, cities, and towns, conserving the state's natural resources and systems, promoting beneficial economic growth, development, and renewal for all residents of New Jersey, protecting the environment, preventing and cleaning up pollution, providing adequate public facilities and services at a reasonable cost, providing adequate housing at a reasonable cost, preserving and enhancing areas with historic, cultural, scenic, open space, and recreational value, and ensuring sound and integrated planning and implementation statewide. For this new preliminary plan, we added 2 more goals, one which addresses climate change and one which addresses equity. The climate change goal was somewhat discussed in the 2001 plan. It wasn't a goal then. So for this go around, we did include it as its own goal. So now, in addition to addressing the 10 goals in the areas of agreement and disagreement, the cross-acceptance process also gives each participating municipality the chance to review the current state plan policy map, which is the map that's attached to the state plan. And they are allowed to propose with justification any changes they would like to see. Currently, the state has not proposed any changes to the map with the release of the preliminary plan. We're expecting all of the proposed changes to come during the cross-acceptance process. So that's very important. The state did not propose any changes currently, but we're expecting those to happen during cross-acceptance. So the map as it is, so the 2001 map that was adopted with the 2001 plan, the only changes that were done since then were any map amendments that had come in and any plan endorsements that were done by the State Planning Commission. As the cross-acceptance process continues, my office will be meeting with the negotiating entities to compile the statements of agreements and disagreements for each county. And these are the documents that are going to guide the drafting of the final plan. We don't expect to have consistency between all the municipalities, between all the counties, between all the state agencies. The way our act and our rules are written, we just have to get to the highest level of consistency that is possible. Once a draft final state plan is prepared, we have to do 6 more public hearings, all held across the state. Ultimately, we are anticipating the final state plan to be adopted by the commission around December of 2025. So this time, if any of you guys were around the last time we tried to do this, this is a very short timeline for us, and we are trying to do it during this administration. We are currently accepting comments on the preliminary plan through a survey on our website. We have multiple pages on the website, so the survey exists on the subpage that's called Update to the State Plan. There's a link on the bottom for the survey. We are also accepting comments via email at our email address, stateplan.comments@sos.nj.gov. And again, all this information can be found on our website, including the cross-acceptance manual, which outlines everything in there. We are also in the process of creating a citizen's guide, which takes the plan and simplifies it so that someone who isn't a planner can understand the plan as well, so that we can get a lot more of the public to be able to comment on it. And one final note that I have is our executive director, Donna Rangero, is retiring at the end of this month, and Walter Lane will be taking over for our office starting February 1st. He is here right now as our deputy director. And that is all I have.
Thank you so much, Lisa. Wow, that's congratulations to Donna and welcome, Walter. That's terrific. So, please post your questions in the chat. There's a lot going on there, and the presenters are available still and able to answer questions. I want to go through quickly some of the work group updates. The work groups, as most of you know, are really the backbone and the meat and the productive part of the Coastal Resilience Collaborative, other than all of this information sharing. The CHARM, the ESNRW, as well as the Beneficial Use Learning Network are part of that renegotiation of work groups that Martha spoke about a little bit. We're trying to streamline that group, so the actual scientists and professionals in the field don't need to do as much administrative work. It could be more streamlined for them. So right now, the CHARM group is anticipating that they will be reestablishing learning webinar series, connecting resource managers with on-the-ground projects, and the latest ecological restoration-related research to help them review permits and make resource management decisions. They're finalizing out the permitting guidance documents, and that will be posted to the collaborative webpage. The ESNRW work group is planning for an upcoming session at the Partnership for the Delaware Estuary Science Summit. It's entitled Improving Ecosystem Rehabilitation Through a Mosaic Approach, Advancing a Regional Philosophy in New Jersey. The group will be working on a white paper to solidify this work under the same title moving forward. The field site visit, which is one of our newer work groups, had a successful field visit in 2024. They went to the Meadowlands and took a group there. That was terrific. Is this a picture of that site visit that's on up on the screen now? I'm not sure. They're looking for 3 to 4 more site visits in the coming year, so look for advertisement of those site visits. It's a great opportunity to get out there, not just only see what is happening in the field, but also have the opportunity to talk to other practitioners about what's going on. After hearing all the great presentations, even just within this meeting, we have put together a policy work group that really coalesces around specific topic areas. There's potential that we can regroup on providing state plan comments or the back-based study comments, or also the regional sediment framework, or, you know, any of the stuff that Nick talked about. We did provide some comments on the real rules. So if you have an interest in a policy issue, please connect with myself, Liz Semple at TNC, or Tony McDonald, the Urban Coast Institute. You can reach out to any of the co-chairs to let us know if there's something that you do want to work on from a policy perspective with under the umbrella of the collaborative. The latest technical assistance coffee chat was super successful, and I think I heard, and Amanda, correct me if I'm wrong, that it was the most well-attended or most well-registrated, you know, most registrants. And it was Your Mud Matters, turning dredge material into a community treasure. So that occurred recently, and the recordings of all of the technical chats are available on the web page as well. So we're only a couple minutes behind at this point, and we are going to move into the collaborative partner updates. And there's normally, and I believe that's true in this case, there was a call for, do any of the partners want to give an update on this call? So in the future, if you want to give an update, you know, look for that advertisement. Normally comes from Laura or maybe Amanda or Tom in the future. So right now we, Forerunner, Owen, do you have an update for the collaborative?
Yeah, sure. Pleasure to meet all of you guys. My name is Owen. I work at Forerunner. For those of you guys who don't know, Forerunner is a geospatial platform that is built to help communities manage climate risk and flood risk. Our platform centralizes hazard data and documents in one place to help you streamline workflows, you know, across different departments. We partner with over 120 communities across the US, and we actually partner with about 40 communities here in New Jersey, which is also my home state. And we've been working with a number of communities in the Panhandle and Southwest Florida as they respond to some of the work that came out of Hurricanes Helene and Milton. And I wanted to share a few of the lessons we learned in their recovery efforts. I think they might be helpful to get across to all of you. So one thing that we learned was that preparedness is critical. Communities that take proactive measures before disaster strikes generally recover faster and more efficiently. And then the compounded impacts of Hurricane Milton and Hurricane Helene have kind of underscored the need for advanced preparation. You know, no two disasters are alike. Certain preparedness tasks stand out, you know, as more critical than others. But we just wanted to point out a few things to help reduce immediate burden and hopefully build some long-term resilience. So the first is organizing data and assigning roles. So know which tools you're going to use for inspections, communicating with your residents and how you're going to track damages after a storm, and assign clear responsibilities to internal staff and contractors ahead of time. You know, do your inspectors know what regions of the town or the city they need to go out to, what tools they need to have downloaded on their phone? They should have an idea of that beforehand. Train your team and plan for challenges. So conduct preseason training on the tools you use, whether that's Forerunner or something else, so folks know how to collect and manage their data. And plan for low service areas. Something that we noticed a lot of in Florida was if a cell tower went down, it made it very difficult to conduct inspections in certain areas. So have your apps preloaded, have printed forms if you want to use that as backup, or make sure you just have all of the tools you need on hand when you go out there. Another big call is establishing strong SISD processes. So ensure you have systems in place to estimate damage and building values. Make sure that that data on the back end is up to date. You know, you could work with your appraiser, your tax assessor on that parcel information. And a big piece of this as well is educating your residents ahead of hurricane season, or I guess hurricane season makes the most sense, but on flood risks, on how permitting works, SISD compliance. You know, it's really difficult to explain SISD compliance to someone who whose home was just damaged or destroyed in a storm. Moving forward, you know, prepare communication templates in advance. You're gonna have to send out a whole bunch of letters to folks whose homes were damaged or destroyed. Having that stuff created ahead of time will make your life a whole lot easier. And anticipate community needs dependent upon your community's uniqueness from your neighbor. So if you know that you have a low-lying area of town that's going to receive more flooding, or you have an area of town that is prone to receiving more wind damage, keep that in the back of your mind ahead of hurricane season, so you know who to go out to first and whatnot. As noted, part of preparedness is having the right tools, and Forerunner serves as a centralized platform for floodplain management and disaster recovery. With some of the work we've done in Florida, we've already tallied up 17,000 letters sent to residents to help automate SISD tracking. We've done about 30,000 preliminary damage assessments via the Forerunner mobile app. And if you guys have any questions, I'm more than happy to take those via email, I think, which is on the next slide. But very glad to chat with all of you folks today. Hope to see you at some of the upcoming meetings and conferences. And if you have a question, shoot it to my email. If I'm not the one who can answer it, I'll make sure that someone at Forerunner can.
Oh, wait,
And
thanks.
thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks very much, Owen. We got to keep our partner updates to 1 to 2 minutes to be able to try to give everybody a chance to speak. Next is we have NJIT Center for Community Systems. Carrie Martin, are you available to speak?
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Great. Okay, I'll keep this very brief. I'm with NJIT's Center for Community Systems. Part of our center is 2 grant programs, and we have 2 events, but they're on the same day, one for each grant program. One, the most applicable to this group here, is Technical Assistance for Resiliency Program, or TARP. And on February 5th at 1 p.m. at NJIT's campus in Newark, we have a technical assistance workshop and office hours to help folks who want to apply for FEMA's BRICM and FMA funding. I'm going to put the link in the chat for that registry. And then the second program that I work on is technical assistance to brownfields communities. And prior to the 1 p.m. TARP meeting, from 9 to 1, we have a New Jersey Brownfield Summit. So I will also put that link in that link to register in the chat. And I'll also put my email in the chat if you have any questions about those 2 events, and I'm done.
Thank you very much for the information, for the way to contact you, and for being brief. Great Egg Harbor Watershed Association, Brooke Fisher, are you available?
Yes. Hi, everybody. My name is Brooke Fisher, and I'm here from the Great Egg Harbor Watershed Association. We are a small nonprofit, and we receive federal funding from the National Park Service to protect the Great Egg Harbor River and its tributaries, which are designated into the Wild and Scenic River System. Our river starts all the way up in Camden County, and it flows all the way to the Atlantic Ocean, ending between Longport and Ocean City. We're new to this group, and we're excited to learn from those of you who have successfully conducted beneficial reuse and nature-based solution projects. And we're in the beginning stages of getting involved with this type of work, and we're starting to have some meetings with the state to establish partnerships for doing coastal resiliency work in our watershed, and in particular on Tuckahoe Island, which is an island in the Great Egg Harbor Bay. So overall, we're just happy to be a part of this group, and we're happy to learn from everyone that's here. And that's it.
Great, thank you so much. Monmouth University next, Meredith Comey.
I'm going to be super quick. So I just wanted to give a quick update on some of the work that we're doing up here in the more northern part of the state in the Raritan Bay. So UCI, along with our partners, are working on a project funded by the Office of Naval Research, where we're looking at coastal adaptation monitoring and modeling for the Navy, for their resilience, and particularly looking at these techniques in urban waters. Next slide. Quickly, goals and objectives. We're looking at both the physical and the biological. So taking all of the work we had done previously with Baykeeper, looking at habitat creation, species diversity, water quality, etc., and adding in those physical pieces that are needed to really design and study these types of offshore breakwaters, subtidal reef structures, etc. Next slide. I'm being super quick. We have our aquaculture facility at Earl, and this is where we produce all of the oysters for our work at Naval Weapons Station Earl. So we're working on expanding that. Along with remote setting, we're looking at different 3D printed shapes and textures. Again, all towards what works in an urban estuary, looking at incorporating more biomimicry into living shoreline elements. And there's our experimental layout where we'll systematically expand that with various instrumentation to study the physical parameters and populate that. It's a 0.9 acre site, and we hope that this work will be transferable to the other urban areas and other Navy installations. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you, Meredith. Great job. Rebuild by Design, Amy Chester.
Hi, Amy. I'll be presenting on behalf of Amy. My name's Hannah Katz.
Oh,
I
okay,
just need
great.
permission
Welcome.
to share. Oh, perfect. Okay, thank you so much. So thank you for sharing. My name's Hannah Katz, and I'd like to invite you all to a special event we're hosting next Wednesday, January 29th at 7 p.m. We're starting a new monthly webinar series, and we'll be diving into, if you don't know it by now, our really awesome New Jersey Atlas of Disaster. I highly recommend checking it out on our website. It's a tool that highlights the growing impact of climate-related disasters in our state. And we're thrilled to have Caleb Stratton, the Chief Resilience Officer for the city of Hoboken there, as our special guest. He's going to show how Hoboken's multi-purpose infrastructure strategies are working for them and reducing flooding. So if you want to join the conversation and be part of our larger initiatives for New Jersey, please send me an email. We also have a planning meeting tomorrow in which we're going to have a larger discussion about steps moving forward in making our strategies for climate resilience funding. So if you'd like to be part of it, my email is there. We're happy to get you all involved. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. New Jersey Future, Diane, can you pronounce your last name? I know that you're going to be sitting in as a replacement for the short term. If you'd let us all know how to say your last name.
Sure, it's Diane Schroth, like moth or cloth.
Okay.
So, yeah, the announcement I thought I was going to make, I don't think I'm quite ready, but just a quick sharing that the call for sessions for the New Jersey Planning and Redevelopment Conference is open. I think it's open through early February. So the conference is going to be in June, like the week of June. Sorry, I should have had all this ready, but just encourage folks to apply, and I'll put a link in the chat. Or submit a session, sorry.
Okay, great. Thank you very much and for participating. Next is Black and Beck. How do you say it, Allison?
Yeah, Black and Beach. Thanks, Liz. Hi, everyone. Happy New Year. I'll be lightning fast. I think I'm the last one before we adjourn. Black and Beach is so happy to be a new partner to NJCRC. We're doing some exciting planning work and nature-based solutions in New Jersey. So I wanted to share two current projects. One is the Essex County Hazard Mitigation Plan. We are working right now with the county and all the communities to develop an action plan to reduce hazard risk, and there's been a focus on flooding. We kicked this off over the holidays, and here are just a few examples of outreach efforts that are underway. So if you're a resident of Essex County, a frequent visitor, or someone who works in and with the county, we'd love your input. We have a few meetings coming up, public meetings in February, so stay tuned for that on the county's website. And on the next slide, if you heard my talk at NJAFM, our team is working on some exciting ecosystem restoration projects. We were honored to contribute to the White House Office of Science and Technology Policy Working Session on nature-based solutions for hazard risk reduction this past summer. This work culminated in this recent publication. So I'm happy to share this with the group that you may find helpful as you consider nature-based solutions in your communities. So I'll drop the link in the chat, and thanks for giving us a chance to share a couple updates from Black and Beach.
Okay, that's great. Thank you very much. So that is the end of our meeting. We had a lot of great information that was relayed. I know that not everybody had the opportunity to ask all the questions. I know I didn't, but now we know the contact information of the people that presented, and we're going to be able to reach out to them. Looking forward to the next full membership meeting in June, and I'm looking forward to seeing you there. Thanks very much. Have a good evening. Bye.
Thank you.